Hello there, business ethics folks. I wanted to take a few minutes in this video to talk about case number 3 because it is a bigger part of your grade than the other cases. You've had a little bit of practice so far working on the cases, trying to get to the heart of the matter in terms of what the issue is and what the question's asking you for. But because this particular case is worth 100 points instead of 25 or 30, and because it's worth 30% of your grade, I wanted to try to eliminate all the questions that you might have about how to do it. First of all, remember that this is an individual case. You won't be interacting with your groups. In fact, I prefer that you not even talk to your groups about it so that you don't get ideas from them, you don't give them ideas, so forth. It needs to be your work and your ideas. The case itself is the Walmart case, and what I'll encourage you to do is read through it first, make some notes in the margin of the book or on a piece of notebook paper, so that you kind of know what it is that you want to talk about. Because there's a couple of major sections of this particular assignment that I'm looking for. And it is a little bit different from the other ones. I've not asked you to answer either of the questions in the back of the book, any of the questions. I want to look for a couple of particular things. And I'm doing this differently than the other case studies because one of the things that we're encouraged to do, especially at the master's level, is to create one assignment that really forces you to think about what you believe about certain things. And this is the assignment that I'm using in this class to do that. So if you haven't had a chance yet, read through the instructions on the Dropbox to get an idea of what I'm looking for, and print out a copy of the rubric that I'm going to use to grade it. I assume that at this point you have already looked at the Dropbox and you've printed a copy of the rubric. If you haven't, pause the video and go do that real quick. But what I'm hoping that you'll do for me in this assignment is to create a document in Word or your version of that if you're a Mac, as long as I can open it with my PC, my Windows, Microsoft PC products. We're cool. So if you have the option, make sure that you save it as a doc file or something like that that is Word compatible. If I can't open your file, I'll email you and ask you to rename it and resend it. But hopefully we'll get through this without having to have that little bit of a delay. The first thing that I want you to do as you read through the case, similar to what you've done in the other cases that you've already completed this semester, is to give me a summary of the facts. I'm thinking that this is probably half, maybe, to 3/4 of one page, but not the full page. Just kind of pull out what you think are the most important facts from the case. And as you look at the rubric, you'll notice that there's 5 levels, the last level of which basically is you didn't turn in the assignment. So we're really looking at 4 levels. The first one assumes that this particular section is perfect. You've done a very good job in all of the major blocks of answering the question that was asked and explaining yourself fairly well. The second level is generally figured at either the 90 or the 95% point of whatever perfect is. So 15 at 95% is about 14. The third level is about 85% of what perfect is. Now, when it's a number like 20, that's not the right way to say that. If it had been a number like 10, it would have been at the 80% rather than the 85%. But I tried to get something kind of in the middle so that if you're kind of doing B work, you're not on the lower end of the scale, you're in the middle. All right, the fourth level is basically the 75%. So you consider level 5 is perfect, level 4 is A-level work, level 3 is B-level work, and level C is 3-level work. So take right off the bat the encouragement that even if you turn in a lousy paper, you're going to get a C on it, which is 30% of your grade. If you don't turn anything in at all, obviously it's going to be tough to get good points on this particular essay. So looking at the summary and the facts, what I'm looking for is, did you really bring out all of or a significant number of important facts, and did you communicate pretty well in the process? The A level is that you got most of it. There may be something that I think that you left out, and you wrote it pretty well. There may be a little bit of problem with the writing or the flow of information, but pretty well. The B level, level 3, is maybe you missed a number of things that were kind of important to the overall storyline, or you did a really pretty poor job perhaps of writing it. And then a C is there's a lot of room for improvement here. Once you've done the summary or the facts of the case, then I want you to enter into a second point, which talks about of all of the issues in this case, and there are a number of ethical issues that they bring up in this case, I want you to pick 2 of them. You choose whichever 2 you want. And I like this kind of approach to an assignment because if there's a number of different potential ethical issues and I give you the choice of 2, I'm not going to read the same paper 20 times. You're going to pick different combinations of the 2. So there'll be some variety in my reading, which makes it easier on me. You pick any 2 issues, and then in section 2, I want you to talk about why this is an issue. And I want you to think back to the textbook and bring out some ideas from the textbook in terms of the types of problems. Is it deontological, or is it the greatest good for the greatest number where this is a problem, or whatever, and see if you can incorporate some ideas into the book. There's really no point in having the book other than accessing the cases in the back or occasionally a discussion question if you don't go back to that book and reference some of those ideas in this paper. So a perfect paper in this part of it is that you very, very clearly pointed out 2 issues that you want to talk about. You did a very good job of illustrating why you think this is an issue, and you brought some ideas from the book. Now, you don't have to cite the book, but you might want to say, the book talks about this concept which fits in this way on this particular issue. So you don't have to do the footnoting, you don't have to do the APA style, you don't even have to have a reference page where you reference a journal article if you use one, or the book. Just state the book indicated whatever, or an article I read said this or whatever, without the citations. An A on this is almost perfect. Maybe one of your 2 issues, you didn't really lay out why that was an issue, why that creates an ethical problem, or you didn't reference the book. A B on this part of it is that maybe you struggled a little bit, as you see in the grading rubric here. You struggled a little bit telling me why this is even an issue. Now, I would agree with you that is an issue, but you maybe really weren't real clear in why you think it was an issue, or you kind of ignored the book. Now, this is partially what do you think, but partially how does this fit in with what you've learned from the book? The C is there's a lot of room for improvement here. Now, after you've talked about the summary or the facts of the case, and you've talked about the 2 issues that you chose and why you think they're issues and what the book kind of leads you to believe about these issues, then I want the 3rd section of the paper to be a discussion about what you think the consequences are if we don't address this ethical issue. So if one of the ethical issues is, you say, that they're polluting the groundwater, what's the consequences of continuing to pollute the groundwater, or maybe not cleaning up what they've already done? For both of the issues, you're going to want to talk about the consequences. So you're thinking big picture, what's the long-term impact? Maybe there's some short-term impact and long-term impact. Now, the second section of this is probably, again, another 3/4 of a page, maybe. Excuse me. The consequences may be a little bit shorter. It's probably easier to talk about the consequences where you have to get a little more involved in the why it's an issue to begin with. Why does it become an ethical issue that this thing is occurring? So if you're looking at the section so far, summaries, maybe half a page, maybe the why on the issues, because there's 2 issues, maybe 3/4 of a page, the consequences about half a page maybe. The issues, the 4th part is going to be, let's pretend you're the CEO. What are you going to recommend that we do to fix this problem? You've talked about why it's an issue to begin with and what the consequences are. What are you going to do to fix it? And here's where you might spend a page. You want to address both of the issues that you chose and talk about the plan that you're going to put together as a CEO to fix this issue. On the consequences, 20 points. Perfect. You really spelled out what the consequences were. You elaborated on why those are consequences, or what the impact is going to be to us or to the customers or to the community, the environment, whatever. An A is a pretty good job of it. There's a little bit missing here and there. A B is there's a little bit more missing. It didn't completely make sense, or you didn't finish a thought, those kinds of things. And then a C is, boy, you obviously tried, but you may have missed the point of this. The 4th section, 25 points. This is the bigger part of the overall project. It's important that you be able to identify what the issues are, and you be able to identify what the consequences of those issues are. But I'm really a little bit more interested in your creative thinking on what you would do as the CEO to fix this problem. So 25 points, perfect. Very, very clear on what you would do. There's some detail as to how you'd go about doing that for both of the issues. And you have got a complete, well thought out, well laid out plan, and you've expressed those ideas pretty well. An A, little bit missing here or there, you didn't express it very well, you kind of skipped something that was important, perhaps. A B on this section is you started getting there, but you fell short. It wasn't just something little missing here and there, but there was a significant piece that was missing. And a C, you obviously tried it, you got the section, but it just doesn't make sense at all, or it's very impractical to do this, or you just didn't express yourself very well. So those 4 main sections, 15 on the summary, 20 on the why it's an issue, 20 on the consequences of this issue, and 25 on what you will do as the CEO. The last 20 points of the assignment, 15 of those are related to grammar and spelling. As I go through, I'm going to make little notes in the margin where I've seen a word spelled incorrectly, or I've seen where you've left out a word in this sentence, or it's a fragment or something. And then I'm going to go up and I'm going to count all those things. And if I find 3 or fewer, I'm considering it a perfect paper. If I find 4, 5, or 6, that's probably an A. 7 to 9 is a B. And if you've got 10 or more, you didn't proofread this thing, you didn't use your spell check that's built into the system, you didn't pay any attention to the little red and green squiggly lines that tells you where you've got a sentence that doesn't make real good sense or whatever. So up to 15 points there. And then it's going to have Turnitin.com access for this thing. So if you take ideas from the book, you've got to put them into your own words. Try your best, if you take an idea from the book, to not have more than maybe 3 words in a row that came out of the book. Rephrase it somehow by rearranging the words or putting it into your own thought. The originality score is really the plagiarism score. It's phrased incorrectly. The lower the score, the better. Originality sounds like the higher the better, but in this case, the lower the better. If it's a 0 to 3, it means that there is very little in this 3 or 4 page paper that you have pulled word for word from somewhere else. So you get 5 points if the score is 3 or lower. If it's 4 to 6, it's 4 points. If it's 7 to 12, a little bit bigger block there, it's 3 points. If it's higher than 12, even if it's 100, I may email you if it's 30 or higher, because you've taken a lot of this paper from other sources, but 2 points. So a total of 100. From the structure standpoint, once you start typing, I want you to go in and set the spacing on this thing at 1.15. If you have questions on how to do that, email me and I'll try to show you. I'll get on a video call with you or do some screen prints or something. But not double space, not single space, not 1.5. One of the options in the drop-down menu on spacing is 1.15. That gives me a little bit of space above and below each line, so it doesn't all run together, but it also gives you enough room to work. Double space with 4 pages, it's hard to put a lot of in there. Single space is hard for me to read. 1.15 gives you enough space to really talk through your ideas, but also puts it in a format that is easy on my eyes to look at. So 1.15. You want to create a heading on this paper in the upper margin that just has your name. Doesn't have anything about case 3 or my class or my name or the date, just your name. I don't care if it's centered or left or right, justified, but your name in the header. And then on the very first line, there's no formal introduction. You just put as a heading summary/facts, and then you start your good solid paragraph that's half a page. Maybe several paragraphs, but about half a page. Then you have a new heading that's centered that says issues-y or something to that effect. And then you have your section that's maybe 3/4 of a page long. Then you have a section heading that says issues-consequences, and you have 3/4 of a half a page, whatever. Then you have a section heading that says issues-me. And that's where you have your page where you talk about what you're going to do. Doesn't have to be any formal closing, just like there wasn't any formal introduction. I'm really not looking for space to be wasted building up to what you're going to say or summarizing what you said. I want those 4 main sections. You're working between 3 and 4 pages, so it's maybe a little bit challenging to get it all in there if you have an introduction and a conclusion that kills some of your space that you could spend really showing me how you think through these things ethically and logically and really defend your positions. You can submit multiple copies of this. I think I've set the Dropbox up correctly to where if you submit a second copy, it eliminates your first copy. So if you want to, you can submit a copy before the deadline, and then you can go in an hour later, a day later, whatever, and look to see what that originality score is, and then you can make adjustments and submit a second copy if you want to. It doesn't matter when you turn it in. I'm going to wait until after the absolute deadline of 11:59 p.m. on the Sunday that it's due before I read anybody's paper. So if you want to make 12 different adjustments and submit 12 different files, you do that. You've got up until 11:59 p.m. on the day that it's due. Hopefully that answers most of the questions that you might have. If you still have issues, put something in the Ask Dr. Grimes or Ask the Class discussion board that I can answer for everybody, or shoot me an email either through Radar or through GoView, Georgia View, and I'll try to address your issues. But I hope that makes sense. This is kind of a big deal because I really am interested in what you think and how you process information and how you express yourself with a pretty clear plan, how you see things ethically. And I'm not going to be grading. You might have noticed in the rubric that I'm not grading you on whether I think you're right or wrong. I'm grading you on how well you express your ideas. So it may be that you think that there's an ethical issue related to hiring and we're discriminating, and you may say that's exactly what we need to do and we need to intensify our discrimination. I may disagree with you wholeheartedly, but that's not going to impact your grade. It's going to be how well you defend your position. And if you don't do a good job of defending it, even if I disagree with it, if you do a good job of defending it, you're gonna get points for it. If you do a bad job of defending something that I agree with wholeheartedly, you won't get points for it. So it's how well you express yourself. Again, hopefully this answers a lot of your questions and gives you a positive feeling going into this thing. You can do this. I know that you can, because it's all about your interpretation and your opinion, your perspective. How well do you express that and defend that? You can do that. Good luck with it. Let me know if there's any questions that I haven't answered so far.